Sometimes they come in bits, in small bits. All right. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the last day of Z, but more importantly, the blockchain part of Z. Uh, over the last few days has been really exciting with a lot of information that's been coming through you. I'm sure there are a lot of questions. I'm sure there are a lot of concerns, if I may put it, and which has been the case with blockchain for years now, especially now that I've spent a lot of time researching, reading about it, and working in it. So the panel today will hopefully help us answer some of the questions. Today on the panel, we have some really experienced, I would say, uh, participants who should ideally be able to answer all of your questions. If not, you can always write us an email. So we'll quickly go around the panel. They will introduce themselves, and then we'll take some questions, followed by any audience questions that would come through. But nevertheless, here we go. So Thomas, can we start with you? If we can give a quick 1 minute intro about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Tomas Hoogkamer, a senior business analyst at EPAM. I have been interested in blockchain and digital ledger technology in general for about 5-6 years. I call myself T-shaped professional, so no, I don't limit. I'm a business analyst, but I don't limit myself to the business side of things, and I like to go into depth. Most of all, I'm curious in anything related to DLT.
Thank you, Thomas. Next, we have Alexandra. If you can quickly go on.
Yes, I would be very quick. I'm Sasha Pitkevich. I'm leading EPAM blockchain practice, and I'm also leading blockchain professionals community. I'm in a space since the beginning. Like I would be failing to count how many years is that. Definitely like about 7. But that's it. I think it's enough, and majority of the people know me anyway.
Thank you, Sasha. Daniel, I'm going by the sequence of screens I see on here. So
Thanks, Uday. So I'm Daniel Simpson. So I'm also a senior BA with EPAM. Been with EPAM for a few years now. So I'd say I got into blockchain around about 2012, 2013 when I discovered Bitcoin, and soon after understanding roughly how it works, became very interested in that and technology around it, the ideas around it. What it could mean for many use cases. So I describe myself as a kind of blockchain sort of enthusiast and generalist, really, but more recently digging into particular use cases such as smart cities use cases and decentralized ID.
thanks, Daniel. Next, we have Ilya. If you go next. There are two. Sorry, Ilya, Sharin.
Yeah, my name is Ilya Sharin. Formally and by title, I'm Senior Solution Architect, but currently I'm leading technical competency for blockchain and DLT in EPAM for last 3+ years. And because situation with blockchain is more complicated than we thought initially once cryptocurrencies appeared, now I have to say that we are doing architecture for distributed systems, for complex systems, heterogeneous system with blockchain involvement. And since this year, we are even creating product based on blockchain and DLT systems in EPAM.
Right. Thank you. And we have another Ilya here.
So, like, I'm Ilya Havsiyevych, or Havsiyevych, how it's spelled in different languages. I'm mostly doing like development job around blockchain, and probably longest EPAM forced around the blockchain space, starting probably from 2015. That's probably it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Irina, you're hiding behind the screen, but we can still use your introduction. All right, we'll come back to Irina. Taras, are you around? Maybe.
Wait for a second. Hello, I am Taras Protsov. I'm business analyst in EPAM. So I was curious about blockchain for pretty long time, but probably goes to dig deeper in that field for last year. So that's it.
And last we have Andrew. There you go.
Yeah, I'm here. Let me share my screen. So, Andrii Vyazovskyi, and I've been here quite for a long time. I started my journey in blockchain with creating and being a product manager for the analytical system, which is called CER, Crypto Exchange Ranks, if you know that platform. Now they actually partnered with CryptoGeeks and provided information about cybersecurity of crypto exchanges, and actually that as I call this my involvement as I was involved into blockchain and cryptocurrencies from the dark side of it. Yes, I read a lot of stories about how those people was not unfairly treated and so forth, trying to resolve these problems and kind of involved in the IML stuff. Here at EPAM, I've actually started working with Sasha in the community as the business analyst on the blockchain side. Started the first, become a first business analyst for the cryptocurrency wallet in an EPAM, and actually, yeah, that's probably more from my side. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Irina, do you want to, I give you a quick 10 seconds so we get to the questions. All right, so we'll get cracking with some questions while she sorts. I think there's some issue with her connection. So the way we'll set up is there are always a lot of questions around the technology per se, and then how things come together. If they do, how do they fit in? So we'll start with a very generic question by defining the low-hanging fruit in blockchain, and by that, what do you think will be the areas that would first impact if this technology kind of became mainstream? It's an open house question, so anyone who wants to grab it can go for it. Sasha, do you want to lead it?
Well, I can start probably. I'm not sure about the leading, and I always have like my own opinion. But if you're asking about the low-hanging fruits, I would probably think about something which doesn't have a lot of regulations around, and where the benefits of the technology are more or less obvious. So I'm voting for the serialization, IoT, and combination of IoT and DLT, because here we definitely know why is it necessary, why it's effective, and we don't know obvious better solutions. And we do not need to go through a lot of government's compliance for that. So for me, the low-hanging fruit is there. Also, the technical realization, like we can ask the technical guys, might be complex, but still, we already see quite some of the solutions which are working in the space. And the money which are startups which are doing the IoT integration or blockchain are earning now, and which are doing the identification of the devices and security of the communications, they prove that it must be not that high-hanging fruits.
And from technical side, there is a huge trap for young players because if you are trying to find low-hanging fruit, you are coming to blockchain native systems, which is pretty clean from an architectural standpoint. But once you are trying to apply it to real business, you'll find that you have to disrupt that business, and the low-hanging fruit from technical side will appear as major disruptor and capital investment from business side. So you choose what's more important, low-hanging fruit from technology side or smaller steps from business side, but more complex technical implementation.
I actually was choosing something which is simple on the business side truly believing that technology complexity is easier to resolve than a business complexity. That's why I was saying, like, I would choose for IoT, guys. Here we know what to do on the business side. Okay, business will come themselves, and the technology-wise, we will resolve.
Oh, we're always ready with technology. It just keeps evolving, doesn't it? I know Tomas has a really strong opinion on what is low hanging, and he's very passionate about to talk. Tomas.
You saw my eyes blink. No, I have more like a question, because I understand that approach, but then the question is, because so I'm kind of wrestling with that question. It is like, okay, it's like this tree. It has the fruit in there. People ask us to help with picking the low-hanging fruit, or they may ask us to help out with picking the higher hanging fruit. But then the question is, shouldn't we be more kind of proactive in that sense?
Cut the whole tree?
No. Cutting the tree will just could actually mess up a lot. But we could actually say no, because the higher hanging fruit there has been more sun actually, so they're actually sweeter. So there can be sweeter spots higher up the tree. So shouldn't we kind of have those conversations with the clients and not kind of lean back, because I sometimes feel that way, that we're just waiting until they ask us, yeah, please climb up the tree.
I would say that clients always prefer to replace trees with bushes and bushes with grass because it's smaller and less risky.
Yeah. No, that's fair indeed, but it's the, so I know this technology has a great promise. The only thing is we need to you need to have this first client that actually sees that promise, and of course they are very keen on not to kind of wreck what they already have, so they want to make that kind of a weighted decision. So I understand that, but then still it takes a while for the first client to make that decision. So where can we help?
It looks like there are a lot of low-hanging fruits, but each one has an opinion, which I would completely expect. Since Daniel is looking away from the screen, I'm going to ask him the next question. Daniel, what's your opinion on digital identity with respect to blockchain? How important is it, or where do you see the whole shebang of things happening around digital identity today?
Yeah, so identity is it's kind of an interesting one, because when the blockchain was kind of created, the idea was that it was anonymous, or at least a pseudo-anonymous system. But I think practically, as we try to create systems that are going to be consumed by hundreds and thousands of people, the systems need to comply with various regulations. So I think it's quite difficult to kind of meet that expectation. But if we mean here like the ability to identify a person's name or address based on a key or an asset, then there are systems like Monero that have been built from the ground up to effectively hide all of that. So transactions completely anonymous, no names associated. But in the case where you've got like a private network, some use cases such as things like Libra, it's not a real use case yet, but proposed, that then KYC and onboarding is going to be very important. So I think there's two sides to that. I mean, but the control of ID itself, it's probably something that's going to sit outside of the blockchain technology. So, things like onboarding and KYC is I see it sort of outside of the main protocol itself. But yeah, in the kind of spirit of blockchain is kind of anonymity, starting off from cryptocurrency systems. But I think practically, as we see systems evolve, it's going to be the more kind of practical use cases that's going to involve some kind of KYC to see widespread adoption, I would say.
Do we have people around who believe in anonymity in the future of that? Well, I'm the only one here.
No, I'm sure there is equal voice in that direction. You won't be alone, Sasha.
Well,
But
I
anonymity is
really
another bit.
I really truly believe that it's a great option. It's a great option in a lot of really interesting use cases. Well, the fact that not every business is able to deal with that, and not every, I would say, when a society is probably not always ready to deal with that existing in the world, I actually believe that it changes the society, and I like to look at that because well, the same. Well, I was presenting actually today on open source booth our Open VAS project, and I didn't have any question. I was expecting the question of people say like, are you like blockchain practice building something to kill the purpose of blockchain? Because like, what's the reason to put in a anonymous financial network the messaging which will kill the anonymity? And I had an answer for that. But basically, well, I truly believe that it's a value to be able to operate anonymously.
No, it definitely is because if you look in my area of interest in blockchain, obviously is from a media, entertainment, and telecom sector. Now, if you take those guys as reference, they want to see what's happening with their asset or creative piece. So anonymity is lesser important to them. More importantly, they want to see what's happening, who's consuming it, how do they account for it, how do they break the barriers of transparency, include transparency, but then break the barriers of anonymity, which is the other side of the spectrum. But really, I think there are a lot of these to and fro or the yin and yang questions that blockchain kind of brings to the table, where while you can argue equally on both sides, yeah, and then I think there is never an end to that conversation. A couple of things I picked up on what Daniel mentioned was about cryptocurrency, and then two about networks, which kind of leads me to my next question. Who is going to win the race? Will it be the publicly hosted blockchain guys, or it is the people who are on the privately run guys who are on a more, do you think they are on a fast track compared to the public sector? Open question, actually.
Most likely they will have segmented market, so there is no sense to compete between government and commercial companies because government is highly regulated. They can adopt legislation for their purposes. And we see that countries and large states here in the US and European Union started their own initiatives, and they make sense only if they are covering certain areas, countries, and so on. And commercial companies require slightly different or totally different things in some case. They need to be their business more effective. So governments requires full audit and sometimes transparency, sometimes just detailed and verifiable and mutable information. Companies are more interested in things that translates to money or time, which is also money. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Ilya. So because of say companies and also groups of companies, they can actually they have a more confined business case. So because of it not being general purpose, they can easily set the next step. But then the question is, okay, should that be the case? So of course they have the money, they can actually do that. But okay, the promise of the technology is that the masses actually benefit. So I still think the masses, in the end, some way, one way or the other, they will actually win. It could be, for instance, because of those kind of confined business networks in the end have to kind of interoperate, and because of this big mess, so we can't actually tie them all together. yeah, maybe we have a kind of a new internet.
Sorry, go on. I was just saying, somehow I'm getting amazing segue into my next question. So,
No, okay, yeah, please,
because you're talking about consumers, you're talking about the masses. Now, obviously, it gets me thinking because there is so many wide applications depending on the industry you choose. Now, in terms of the impact that you would see on the end consumer, who do you think will be the most to benefit in terms of the masses, not businesses, not industries, not banks. As an end consumer, what's in it for blockchain kind of coming mainstream?
Is that whom are you asking?
Anyone who wants to answer it. Actually, I'm the end consumer and I really want to know what's in it for me.
Probably I would say one word: continuity. So end users and consumers are looking for universal experience across all companies, businesses. They want to have just one good habit and translate it to every part of IT system or business and just use that simple practice. So I would say if you are talking about blockchain of blockchains and highly integrated systems, then continuity is the word.
That's a good way of putting it. So I'll go around the table. One word in your sense that kind of defines the advantage to end users. So Sasha, what do you think is your one word?
I already said my word. I even recorded a video, and that's word was freedom. And I do believe that like that brings me freedom to decide, and that makes me free from like monopolies, and that makes me free being anonymous. So that's my word, and that's probably why I'm going to use that, and I'm going to work on that, like to build that. So I think that's.
So probably the real world from me right now will be investment, and I see the maybe last 5 years the real use case for the masses was try to invest into crypto in some successful or unsuccessful way. That will be my sentence.
And thanks to DeFi, we have now hundreds of new possibilities to invest.
Nope, I'm one of those. Not going back on that. Great enough. Anyone else who wants to throw in their one word before I move on to the next?
I go for fairness. I think that's going to be a nice word personally to describe it. And I would say that self-sovereign identity is going to be huge. I think that's when I was learning about this use case, I kind of saw this as one thing that's really going to gain traction. And the thing about ID, it affects every one of us on the planet. It's our identity, who we are, proving things about ourselves, ownership of things. And if over time, the open standards are emerging now, that are looking to disintermediate all of the the various actors in proving and holding details about ourselves, IDs about ourselves, and if we gain control of those, this is a big game changer. So definitely for me, this is one of the outstanding potential use cases in this technology.
Right. So blockchain has been around for a while now. We've been discussing for the last 25 minutes of what it can do, what are the possibilities, and why it is important to the real world. Now, given that, what do you think is the scale? How big is it today? And how big do you think it will get in terms of real projects getting into the pipeline, people really seeing the benefits of running something? I personally know a couple, but I'm sure each one in your own domain specialization should have seen some applications of it, or you have come across something that you think, look at it and then say, oh, that is big, or that is going to be big. So any thoughts on that?
Well, I can start, because being a business lead, I do see every day the pipeline. And well, speaking about the near future, I would say for next year, I will bank on a core development. I would bank, well, look into the COVID situation and everything. I will bank of ours, like, and also look into our expertise. I would say that core development would be the key word for us as EPAM probably for the next year. And I'm literally trying to make it as big as possible, means that we're speaking about several hundreds people working on core blockchain development. Speaking about like the global world and where is it going, I would say that, yeah, I've been presenting also the trends. We've already seen in October the first official central bank cryptocurrency went live. For those who missed that, we do have Bahamian cent dollar, which is by law equal to $1. And I would say that the payments area would be crazy next year, especially looking to the success of DeFi and exponential growth of the investments there. I think that will make commercial banks finally to move their asses and to implement something enough. And also we've seen there was the Ukrainian law about the cryptocurrencies. We've seen that in Europe, and we know that the papers for the Central Bank of Europe will be like issued very soon. I think they already started to voting about that or started to discussing that. I do not really understand the process, but there was definitely published some words about this. So we definitely will see how it's growing in the financial space. But I think the crypto will grow enormously for the next year, and official one would be like running behind. Yeah.
That kind of helps look into the direction and start making more investments, I guess, if nothing else. Anybody else? Or we have 2 minutes on the clock. So what I would want to do is quickly get recommendations on if you're an enthusiast, if you're somebody starting new, or someone who is still who has been in the game but wants to learn more. What do you think are your repositories of reference? Where should I go and look at it?
So probably first advice from technical people and technical professionals: do not read too many news articles. Please find something more deep. Probably it will be more on scientific side or on the architectural side, but it will give you a real feel of blockchain and DLT capabilities.
Being a community lead, I would easily say, guys, if you want to learn, come to our community, join our mentoring program, and we will help you to find your way to learn. But I'm with Ilya. If you are technical professionals and you want to learn something, please go to GitHub and read some code. And that will help, like read some code and some real documentation and try to do something by hands, not like trusting the news you can see everywhere and like jungling all those wonderful words as like trust, where like identity or something. Try to do something by hands and see how is it working. Try to deploy the simplest smart contract in the network and see how is it like, and try to call it and see what is happening. That's the best way to learn.
And then ask for help from us.
Yeah,
Oh,
and we have
getting hands
enough
dirty.
professionals to help you. Yes.
Getting hands dirty is definitely one way you learn.
Can I ask a last question? Maybe also you're the leader of you're our leader, Uday. But I'm interested in what challenges we see. So what I see a challenge. Can I put mine forward?
So you can always answer your question and then ask others for answers.
Yeah, so I see a challenge in the regulatory space or the legal space. Something I'm trying to get my head around. The fact that we spend a lot of time, so that you can actually fairly quickly pitch up your own network and create your own consensus protocol, create your own token. That's all fine and can be quickly done. But then, say at least 90% of the effort is actually on the outskirts of the network, trying to kind of get it included in our world as we know it. And a lot of time is actually spent on trying to apply, say, the current law to something new. And I'm getting the idea that, okay, why are we trying so hard to apply old law to something completely new? So that is, I think, a main challenge I see.
No, it's definitely muddy waters, especially with legal regulations around, and that's partly why I kind of steer away from that conversation, because there's no right answer to it. You can define something and say this is legal, you can or can't use it, but then in comes another government or another body which says, you know what, no, it won't work for us. So banks, if you take for example, they will always push you off because there is a lot for them to lose and gain depending on who you're talking to. So yeah, legal definitely is a very interesting topic, which in itself needs a half a day to discuss, to understand, not discuss, on what are the intricacies around it. But we just about 2 minutes over our setup time. Any last words for anyone?
I would like to thank everybody for coming here and say that look into the time we spent, this sort of the discussions we need to repeat. And in June, we are going to have Blockchain that day, where we definitely will repeat the same exercise, but with much wider audience. It's the pity that that's not that many people around. And we definitely will try next time to facilitate the wider audience and longer time.
No, absolutely. I think it's a growing technology even within EPAM or outside. People are slowly realizing it, especially now that crypto is kicking up. I'm sure people will be even more interested, if not for anything, for the money they might end up minting in the meantime. So thank you so much for all your time. Thank you for all the work that you've been putting together so far in educating us and the larger community. Look forward to learning more about what EPAM has to offer, but more importantly, what blockchain has to provide to the outside world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Uday.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys.